Hello, family, friends, and fellow sojourners. The story I want to share with you today has to do with a love story. My husband and I will be celebrating our 50th wedding anniversary shortly, and we've been together 6 years before that. We were high school sweethearts. And the way I met him, I believe God was involved from the very beginning because I see his handprint all over our lives. And it was kind of a fluke that I met him. I had started out in my sophomore year in a class with the teacher that was kind of cranky. She was older. And we took a test, and she said, I'm going to give you a quiz. And I jumped the gun and I started writing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, there were only 5 questions in the quiz. And when I got my test results back, she had marked 6 and 7 wrong. And I got the other 5 right. And I went to ask her about it, and she got very, very upset and sent me back to my seat. And she said, my grade stands. So she wouldn't even listen within reason. So I went to the principal and explained what happened. And he said, you don't want to get on her bad side this early in the year. He said, I would recommend that you switch classes. And that's what I did. So when I walked into this high school English class, there was a vacant seat in the very front row. And of course, all eyes were on me when I walked through the door. And the teacher instructed that I sit in the vacant seat at the very beginning, or the very front of the class. And I noticed this strawberry blonde guy that was sitting behind me, and I didn't give it much thought. But she said, now, Patricia, you don't have to take this test because I gave these words to everybody at the beginning of the week, and you weren't here to study, so you don't have to take the test. And I said, oh, I'll take the test. So I took the test, and she said, hand it to the person behind you, which was this strawberry blonde guy that was sitting behind me. And when he gave me my test results back, he had marked 3 wrong. And I got puzzled and thought, well, these aren't wrong. I spelled these right. So I went up to the teacher and I said, would you check this this spelling test again for me? And she said, well, this one's right, this one's right, this one's right. And I walked back and I said, these were right. And he said, well, I can't read your chicken scratches. Oh, that did not set well with me because I took great pride in my penmanship. So as the weeks went by, I asked him, I said, why did you mark those wrong? He said, I wanted to get your attention. And I thought, well, you got my attention all right, but it wasn't in a good way. But as I got to know him better, I realized he was such a sweet guy. He was very, very kind, had a beautiful smile. But I wasn't attracted to him. He wasn't what I would have chosen as a boyfriend. I was just kind of experimenting at that point. I really didn't know what having a boyfriend was. But as it turns out, we started dating in October of that year, and he took me to a dance, and I just got used to him and was more receptive about being boyfriend girlfriend. And then he told me something strange, and he said, I want to let you know that the minute you walked into that classroom, I fell in love with you. He said, in fact, I thought to myself, I'm going to marry that girl. That, oh boy, what a crock that is. You know, I couldn't believe that he even said such a thing. I just thought it was one of those pickup lines. So over the years, I was questioning him. Is it true that you? He said, yes, it was true. And of course, I still didn't believe him. But don't you know that when we went to adopt our son, Ryan, we had to be sworn in with the judge because he wanted to talk to us and question us, as he should have, about if we realized this is a huge responsibility. And in fact, he actually said to me, he said, now, Mrs. Hoskins, I want you to know that once you adopt this child, it's a done deal. because you can't give him back when he's a teenager. And of course, I said, I know that. So he dismissed me, and he swore my husband in, and then he kind of interrogated him a little bit, and then he said, Mrs. Hoskins, by the way, is there anything you've wanted to ask your husband while he's sworn to tell the truth? And I said, yeah. Is it true, Gary, that you fell in love with me at first sight? And he said, it is true. And I started blubbering like a baby. I just thought, you really love me at first sight? I just thought that was impossible. How could anybody fall in love with somebody first sight? But he did. And 50 years later, since we've been married, we've grown closer. We've grown to love our little idiosyncrasies that we have. We've learned to, learn to struggle through some of the hardships and grow closer as a couple. We've learned to rely on God together. We have done so many things. And I think I shared with you before that I was a stay-at-home mom. That's why I was able to homeschool our children. And we lived on one income. But as a firefighter, he would get 4 days off in a row. He'd work 24 on, off, on, off, on, and then get 4 days off. And we went camping. We went and visited family that was in several hundred miles from our home. We just did everything together as a family, and thoroughly enjoyed his time off as a firefighter. But that also meant that our children got older, that I couldn't go out and get another job to supplement our income, because that would tie our time up. So I learned how to manage money. And I actually, in my book, had this one sentence that really speaks volumes about stretching a dollar. I said, I was so good at it that I actually turned George Washington into Quasimodo. I knew how to stretch it, and that's why I was an avid garage sailor. That's why I wasn't too proud to buy used clothing or used furniture or household goods. It didn't matter. We just lived pretty comfortably by buying used. And I would also have garage sales, and I would typically sell the things that I had used for years and turn around and even make a profit on them. So it was quite a marriage that we had and still have. But if it weren't for the good Lord having Mrs. Foster back in the day mark 6 and 7 wrong when there was no 6 and 7, I wouldn't have wound up in that English class with my husband. I would never have met him probably. And he wouldn't have had the opportunity to fall in love at first sight with me. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this story and got a feel as to who we are as a couple, and just a little background history about who we are and how we came to be. So I hope you enjoyed it. God bless you, my friends. Bye-bye.